Recording in progress.
We're off to the races. All right, so welcome everyone. I am so glad you're here for this amazing opportunity to meet truly one of my favorite people in the world. And don't worry if you're on here, you're probably also I have many favorites. To me, favorite is just not like a one, it's more like a group, a very small group of favorite people. And the reason Tracy is so near and dear to me is first her energy, her business acumen, and this amazing talent that she has with taking something that I tried to do for 3 years, which is to get video testimonials, and turn it into something that even my most reticent, stubborn, I hate video, I hate myself on video, you can't make me do this clients were actually willing and had a really good time in creating these really cool testimonials. So Tracy, thank you for coming on with us today.
Thank you for hosting this. It was so nice of you. And just to give, I'm going to dip in here with a tiny story to just also, if you're coming from me and you're new to Rebecca, is like her energy. I think the first time we met, we were like, and it was not a sales call. It was not anything. But then I started talking about doing video testimonial, and she's like, we were just moving on. And then she's like, whoa, let's circle back to that video testimonial thing. But I will tell you, she hired me like on the spot. I interviewed the people she was coaching from her mastermind and private coaching, and I signed up with her. So when we talk about the power of video or the power of hearing someone's story, that differs a lot from text, and we can talk about that a little bit later too. But the power of being able to honestly tap in and feel the emotions is what we're talking about today. And that is all about video testimonials. And I don't know if I was supposed to give them a little breakdown of like how I got here or what I did. I just took it because I wanted to. Yeah.
And this is why I love you, Tracy, because you just take things and run with it. Carol's from 0 to 160 seconds. You got it, Carol. So strap in, folks, because this is going to be a really fun ride.
I like Carol. I like Carol. Yeah, I have 2 modes. I have full bore and sleeping. That's it. Right, like that's all.
Which is why we get along. Yes. So Tracy, you that's absolutely how it happened with you and I love energy. And just before, I do want you to tell a little bit about like how we got to where we are today. Like you and I started working together because one of a mutual contact says, oh, you guys need to meet. That was it. And then from there, we've, both helped each other in each other's businesses.
Right.
But more than that, you said something really important. I want to make sure everyone really pays attention to this is emotion. And people make decisions based on emotion first, thoughts way after, right? Yes. Someone always wants to feel something, right? And it's like when you say, your legacy is how you made someone feel. They will not remember what you said. They will not remember what you did, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And so I want you guys to kind of really dial into that as Tracy goes and talks a little bit about video testimonials, videos in general. We've got a value-packed webinar here. Actually, it's not really a webinar because webinars are boring, which is why you guys are on for the inaugural live studio audience podcast. My first guest, of course, being Tracy. So Tracy, tell us a little bit about your background. You're Emmy nominated. You've got really cool and funky stuff going on in your background. Talk to us a little bit more about how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. And it's my documentary background that I think, I've been online for 8 years teaching video stuff, and it's good. That's great. However, it wasn't hitting what I love to do, which is giving voice to other people's stories. And that's really what documentary are all about, right? You're giving voice to other people. And so I started in video production over 20 years ago. I know I started when I was 10, and I was able to translate that into an online business with Rebecca's help. And so what I do is I took all of the video knowledge, everything that I had done. I was nominated for one of my documentaries in 2013. Woohoo! I always do the shaka. I never do the double one. Yeah. But so that's what brought me to where we are today, is just that desire to be able to connect with someone and help them tell the story. And it's really twofold. It's helping the client tap into what makes them different, what makes them special, what's going to make them stand out through the words of their happy customers. And so it's giving voice to both the client and the person being interviewed. And so I would say probably my magic sauce is interviewing people.
Yes,
It's
and
the
we're gonna get
ability.
there too, about
Yeah.
like
So,
what goes
and
into
that's
those interviews.
right. And so that's the magic sauce that brought us where we are today, because as Rebecca mentioned, and I love when she tells this story, because most of the people who hop on a call with me will say some sort of version of, I tried to get them myself.
Oh,
Yeah. And whether that be, I have bigger companies who literally had a marketing team set up with a phone and brought people in, and they're like, here's 30 videos. Can you use these? And I'm like, hard no. Nope. No, because they look scared and they look like they're repeating back to you what you just said to them behind the camera, which is what was happening, right?
Mhm.
And so I was able to take that skill of listening and creating questions based on each individual human versus like asking everybody the same question and getting the same not great answer. So
Right.
so yeah, so and what Rebecca's really helped me do is like hone in my process, be able to reach out. We're expanding in a way that feels so good to me as a business owner, because when I first started, I was literally doing all the things, and I was like, well, this isn't a scalable service. And she's like, of course it is. And being able to take, tiny Tracy, tiny thought, and saying like, and here's how you do that. And so being able to be here today and actually talk about like my process and what works and why it works and our clients is just a gift. One that I don't think even 6 months ago I could have imagined.
Yeah,
So
I am so pumped to have you here because little backstory and the whole like I tried to do this thing. Oh my God. Like I got one of my clients on, it was a 10-minute video, and I
mhm.
like looked back on it, I replayed it, and I'm like, this is horrible. Not because my client was horrible, but because let's be real. I am the person he's trying to give a testimonial to.
Right.
That's really hard to do. They're just not going to be open. They're just not going to be free. And I, for absolute certainty, do not have the right questions. So let's start at the beginning. And just before I get going, guys, if you have questions throughout this presentation, please put it in the Q&A, and I will make sure that all of your questions get answered. This is live. You can ask them at any point in time. There's no such thing as a stupid question. Every question will be answered. If you put something into the Q&A, I will read it. It's like a teleprompter. I will read it. I will think about what's been written on there afterwards. Don't take advantage. I know there's some of you out there, they're like, let's make Rebecca read this. Don't do that. But do please post your questions. We'll make sure that we answer everything as they come along. So Tracy, there's three major things that I want to make sure we talk about today. The first one is the power of trust as it relates to using video. So how does that work, and why is it that people will trust so much from what they see on video versus somewhere else? The second thing I want to talk about, you already alluded to, which was the interview questions, right? Like I went wrong in everywhere in my vain attempt, which never saw the light of day. I just like that hit delete button real quick. What is it about some of those interview questions that make people feel calm? And some of the folks you interviewed, I know hate video, and they told me that I'm not doing this, Rebecca, and I'm like, yeah, you are. You're gonna love it. It's gonna be great. And it actually was. So what is that sort of like that magic sauce? And then the last piece, which I think is really important, where a lot of people go wrong with this, myself included, until you really helped me, is how do we advertise this? Like, hey, everybody, here's someone saying really cool things about me. Poof, like, salesy, pitchy, weird. So those are the three major things that we have in here. And right off the hop, because we already decided we love Carol, she has a question. Do you review questions to a person in advance before doing the video? So not to catch them off guard. You know what, Carol? I'm going to pin that question for.
I'm going to table that for a moment, Carol. We'll talk about that during the process, because it's a great
question.
A great question that I get a lot of times. And so, Carol, just just hold on like just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
I'll start with the trust, and then we'll go into the process, because that is a big part of getting people comfortable on camera. So we'll talk about, you're going to hear me talk about trust. I always joke around when I'm on anybody's like anything doing a training, I'm like, the word of the day is trust. So if I test you later and ask you what the word of the day is, the word of the day is trust. And trust is so important. Why? Because before anybody spends money with you, signs up with anything, they're thinking, can I count on you? Do you know what you're doing? Do you have time for me? Right? Or am I going to be just another number? Is it repeatable? Like, so whatever you're promising, is it something that I can also do? Is there something you're teaching that you've just done one time? Right? They want to be able to trust you. And when we talk about video testimonials specifically, the trust is built in. And with the rise of AI, and I love AI, we use it a lot in my business, you have a decline in trust, in brand trust, right? And so people aren't quite sure they can believe what's written. But as of today, you cannot AI a human video testimonial. I get asked a lot, they're like, aren't you worried AI is going to put you out of a job? I'm like, no. And when we talk about the process of, how we get the video testimonials, you'll see why, because it would be impossible. Is also another reason why I don't love a lot of those apps, right? You can, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
And the apps are not, they're frustrating for the user. And so trusting, 9 out of 10 people say that they trust what somebody else says about a business more than they trust the business themselves. And I really want you to kind of stop and think about that for a second, because how many times have you heard or read, we're the best at this, we're
Number
really good
one.
at this,
Hey,
we're
all my real
number
estate
one at
friends
this,
online right now, I'm number
right?
one. Like, you can be number one in anything, and there's
Right, best-selling whatever, right? Like, so all of that is noise, right? Because people can't really trust that. They're not really going to tune into that. And so what a video testimonial does, it's like, wow, but wait, here's an actual human being, and I want what they're having. I like the Harry Met Sally thing. I'm always like, I love what she's having, because I'm not going to get all sciencey here, but they're mirror neurons. And basically what happens is video evokes emotion, right? It demonstrates trust in a way that text can't. And so 93% of what someone is saying is in their gestures. It's in how they're holding themselves. It's in what emotions are going on their face. And so you can't read that from the best written testimonial is never going to even come close. And so we talk about the weight of video testimonials versus the weight of written testimonials. Video testimonials just reign supreme. Right. And so because people aren't just listening to the words, they're watching this person. And oftentimes, and Rebecca, I love that you mentioned your folks. Rebecca's not unique in that most people don't like being on video. Right. Right. I get this. And so my tagline kind of is, people love you, but they don't love video. Right. And the reason, here's what's happening, is they want to do a good job. So they love Rebecca. That's hands down, like nobody's questioning that. What they don't want to do is be fumbling around, bumbling around, make themselves look bad. They're going to make her look bad, right? And so all of these things start going through their heads, and I don't like the way I look, I don't like the way I sound. And so trying to get someone to open up, and the word authentic is overused, but I like to say in a genuine way, right? To actually have someone tell their story. Right. Rebecca's results can be the same for two people, where they like triple X their income, right? That story is never, ever, ever going to sound the same from two different people who I interview, ever.
Right. And that story piece is also where the empathy comes from, right? Because when you tell a story, like if you go through like facts and figures, like even if I put on my website, I'll 3x your income, just to use your example, I never make that promise, right? I mean, you do your work and let's see how this goes. But even if I did that, it's very like, yeah, sure. Like, of course you're going to say that, or maybe there's like one person or whatever. But with storytelling, that inner critic actually goes very quiet, right? And a lot of what I talk about when I talk with my clients about sales is in regards to like, don't just dole out facts and figures, statistics and numbers. Tell a
Mm.
story. Like you can, but
Right,
wrapped in a story so that there's not a no at the end of it. Because when you
right,
go through like tick, 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 as everyone's just waiting for the last one, then to go no, right? Because that's
right,
our default.
right.
One of my favorite sales phrases is when you're wanting something, don't say, can I get whatever? It's would you be opposed to? Because the answer
I
to
like
that
that.
is actually no, but they just said yes. So you're like, woo, winning. So there you go. Extra sales tidbit
I'm
thrown
who
over.
knew it would all be baked in?
Who
Yeah,
knew? Yeah. So now talk to me a little bit because you mentioned about video versus written testimonials.
yeah,
Because a lot of people, and for very good reasons, really push the Google review.
yeah,
Right? Generally, that's one of the most trusted reviews that you can see out there. Now, I've had people, kibosh my business. It was a whole debacle.
yeah,
Someone thought I was someone else, and then decided to give me a bad Google review. I then found him on LinkedIn, called him, and threatened him to call his boss. He then took it down. Smart man.
yeah,
Anyway, but I know there's a lot of fakery, right? Amazon. So I've written 2 books. It is so hard
yeah,
to get a review. Like of 100 reviews that are given, I
yeah,
think maybe 40 or 50 of them get through because there's so much fakeness.
yeah.
There's all these apps and stuff that come in.
And also what's happening, what's happening with a written review is you are completely dependent on the person giving you that review to be like a really good writer who knows how to say exactly what you need them to say. Whereas on video, we can extract that, tell the story through editing, right? Like, so
Right.
that's one of the biggest differences is regardless of how good or not people are on camera, we're still always able to get some sort of soundbite or something that feels very genuine and is very well said versus if, and I've gotten written reviews too, where like they just go on for too long and you're like, oh my God, I didn't say anything. And they're so nice for giving it to you, and I begged them for it and they gave it to me. But people also tune out. So again, like expressions and gestures are what make video work, and that is completely absent in written reviews.
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention one of my earliest online jobs. So I worked a lot in for a book publisher. I was like just hired by the authors to write, at the front of the review, other authors' reviews. I wrote those for the other authors. So big name authors who didn't have time to write reviews of books, I was hired to write those,
Mm.
and then they would just approve it.
Yeah,
So
the
when we
forward for
talk,
my first book is Frank Kern, which
yeah,
I wrote, sent to him because he wouldn't write
correct,
it, and I'm like, just can I put your name on this? And he's like,
right,
sounds great. So
yeah,
yeah, so again, a lot of that kind of fakery stuff as well, for sure.
yeah, and then again, it's a matter of no matter what's going on in the world today, inherently, people want to see other people succeed, and video allows to visually watch someone succeeding. They're talking about, we talked about what people are thinking in trust is like, can I count on you? Rather than Rebecca saying like, you can count on me, I'll be available, right? You have someone saying
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, I text Rebecca and she gets back to me immediately. And like, does she even sleep? And like all these things, when someone says something like that, I think, wow, that's a coach that is going to have my back. That is someone who is available, and that's what's missing from, right? Like, so
Right.
they're immediately filling in. We don't have to say anything negative. I never ask questions that, we'll say like, I'll ask something like, what have you tried before? But I don't ever let people specifically name other programs or anything like that.
Yeah.
You don't need to. But again, there's that like inherent, you see the success that someone's having and you want that too. And again, that's mirror neurons, but it's there's so much going on. But I do inherently think that humans want other humans to succeed. And when you're watching these videos, we have clients where they have memberships. One is a psychologist, and she'll say to me, like, people will come and say, I watched Linda's video. And you know what she's struggling with in her psychology, that's what I am. So like they're referencing the videos specifically
Yep.
because Linda was talking about, this thing. And so there's something that, especially if you have enough of them, you're able to dip in and find the person that you relate to as the viewer,
Mm-hmm. And one
And
of the
then
things
that,
I found
yeah.
really cool about that, because I've got my for those who are
Your
new, this is
library of
my
love.
library of love, my Testimagical library. People watch those and it really helps me. Like, so most people on this call are entrepreneurs, most of
Yeah.
them, and um, getting that trust before someone even talks to you live is
Yeah.
absolute gold, because now my discovery calls are like, oh, I watched your video. I watched Bobby, I watched Mel, I watched, Tracy, I watched Steven.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, great. So which story resonates most with you? And
Yeah.
then that call goes a lot better. So, like, again, I work a lot with realtors, and that's a huge real estate business where referrals have a conversion rate of 3 to 2, right? Whereas online leads convert at 1,600 to 1. And
Right.
so, again, the big sort of meaning of today's call is 10x your referrals
Right.
using the video testimonial.
Well, I mean, yes. And I'm glad you brought it back to the 10x, because again, if you think about, you do have happy clients, you have happy customers, they want to do this for you, right? And you're able to then take that one person who normally would be online in a supermarket, at the post office, saying, oh, I love this person as a realtor, or that you're taking that one-on-one referral, which is awesome, but can be slow going, right? You're taking that in your 10x, that you're able to amplify it and put it out to so many more eyeballs, and then they're able to share it. And we'll talk about like how you can use them, but like,
Part 3.
yeah, but again, like, it's such a powerful asset. And I say it's a marketing and sales asset, because it can be used all through your pipeline. It's evergreen, meaning, like, I mean, I have clients who they're like, I really want you to come back and do some more, but I'm still using the same ones you did 3 years ago. We have a subscription model where, like, people like Rebecca have, we did the bulk project, and then she's like, no, but she has new clients coming all the time. And she's like, I want you to interview this person. And so we just once a month, we just interview someone new. And so it is this ongoing, again, in library of love, I'll just explain for a moment, is more like psychology of it though, is when you have like a page or a group of these video testimonials, people automatically, it just puts you up and above everybody else, because that stands out. The fact that you could get all of these people on video, and I called them library love, gallery of gush, praise page, whatever you want to call it. Like, we can use it in lots of different places, but it's so great to be able to put all of them in one place.
Do you want me to show my page really quickly?
I would.
Okay, girlfriend, let's go. All right, so for those of you wondering, this is my website. So I have my Testimagical page. This is my RebeccaMountain.ca. You can book a call with me. And then here are all of the video testimonials that I have from just a handful of my clients. And like, Tracy said, we're always looking at creating more of these, but each person has their own separate story, right? So you can see here, Sean, from Ottawa. We have Natalie. I helped her to move from, working crazy to be able to actually travel for at least half of the year, but still sell $15 million in real estate. So everyone on here has a different sort of story, and you can kind of see a little bit underneath. Then you click on the button and you can go and watch it. So, and this is where people go. I get a ton of hits on this page, because people will be like, okay, let me check out this Rebecca chick. Let me see if she's like full of shit or not.
Well, and a great story about that is somebody who was looking to hire Rebecca went to that page, saw who created the video, and then booked a call with me. And we were like, wow, it's this weird little circle of, right? Like, but it's kind of amazing to see the power, because as soon as she called in and she's like, oh, I saw this video, I'm like, another win for videos. And I was like, well, did you book a call with Rebecca? She's like, oh yeah, I have a call booked with her, but I just thought the videos are really cool. Right. And so I was like, yes. Okay. So when we talk about like ROI, or they work, people are clicking them, they're watching them.
They do. So let's talk a second about what goes into these. So, Annette, I'm really glad you love the layout, and Catherine, I see your question about getting in touch with Tracy. Stay to the end, guys, because there's some really cool things coming for how you can work with Tracy. And it's so cool. I can't wait to share it with you, but you got to stay to the end. So now we're going to get closer into Carol's question, right? So, and I think that's a really good place to start. So what is it about these questions? Do you give them to people in advance? Let's start there. Like, what preparation do you do? What happens during the call? How
Yeah.
do you make
Well,
people?
and I'll kind of go through the process, because those of you, there are even some of you maybe on the call who have like been, I say you've been testimagicaled, right? Because it is different than just saying like, hey, can you drop a video or go through video ask or do something like that. In that, it is me, a human. I don't even say interviewing them. I just say chatting with them. And so, Carol, I do not ever, it's actually in the contract, ever send people the questions ahead of time. Now, as a client, Rebecca and I have what's called, so you come on board, we have a themes, threads, and transformation call. All this is are bullet points. I don't craft questions ever. I go as soon as, let's say I'm interviewing Sean for Rebecca, I will go, and Rebecca may have left a couple notes about Sean. She may not have, but I have my themes, threads, and transformations. I hop on with Sean after a couple touch points. He's very like comfortable, and we have a lot of touch points along the way before they get on the interview, and we chit chat. I get Sean chatting, right? We're just talking. And then I'll look and I'll say, you know what, this really resonates with this bullet point. I'm going to ask him this. Now, I may move on from the bullet points, or that question that he answered brings up something else. And I'm like, oh, this would be, let's get a little deeper. And I will say to people, I'm like, okay, you just said this. Can we dive in a little bit deeper there? It might get a little uncomfortable for you, right? And most people are like, sure, Tracy, right? Like, right? It's just, again, like skill is interviewing. And so it is not like a formal interview. I've only had one client in the last 7 years who really had a problem with it. And I went to my client and I said, I really don't do this. It was a trust issue for her. She had done a video testimonial for someone who chopped it up and made her say stuff that wasn't true. Like they had, and
Oh
at that
no.
moment, I got together with my client and I said, you know what? I will send her a couple bullet points so that she knows that we're going to stay on these things. And, which I've never done before, I allowed her to see the video before I released it even to the client to make sure that, I hadn't changed anything,
Right.
in just the storytelling. But again, when people start talking and it's meant to feel user generated, but it's highly curated. And when I say curated, it just means we've really thought through, Rebecca will say to me, here are like the 10 most important or 5 most. I've had people who are like, here are 3 things I want people to say this, but then of course from there. So when Rebecca's showing her library of love and each story is different, that's how we make sure that each story is different. In editing, we will go through and say like, well, Sean talked about this and Mel talked about this, but Mel does a really good job. Let's use her for that bullet point, right? Like, so we're making sure that Rebecca has a really good array of different types of either objections or overwhelms or whatever it is that she wants to show. And these are, again, it's like a 30-minute, I don't even know if it was 30 minutes, right? It's a 30-minute call with me, and that's how the questions are born. So Carol, I over answered that for you, but that's the whole process. So we generally, when we're working together, it's 10 participants. We help you craft the email. The only 2 things that you as a client need to do is you only need to book your themes, threads, and transformation call, and you need to send the emails or the text or some people are messenger, whatever that is, however you have to reach your folks. From there on, it is completely hands off for you.
Right,
And
because I
so,
remember, just to
yeah,
break to hold to there for a second, because like when we did that together, just so you guys can understand like the process, you gave me the email with my custom link, right? So my
yes,
custom booking
yes.
link, and all my clients had to do was kind of go, yeah, sure, and then click that link, and then it goes into Tracy's calendar. Like it doesn't go into mine, it
No,
doesn't fuck up my schedule or anything like that. And Tracy's got a Google Doc so I can see which of my
right,
clients have responded. Who do I
right.
need to chase? You'll chase some of them a little bit for me as well.
Yeah.
But that's
And that's the
basically,
thing.
yeah.
It's like we're very communicative. We'll say like, hey, okay, you have 7 booked. Let's send out a second wave. Let's see if we can get, the last 3 booked. If 11 book, Rebecca, I don't even know how many of yours, like 13 booked within like a couple hours. And I'm like, I guess we'll do 13 then, right? Like I don't shut the calendar off if too many people come in a short amount of time, but I open my calendar for 2 weeks. Why? Because if you give people till the end, like you're given 4 weeks, every single person is going to book on like those last 2 days of the 4 weeks. And so we open up for 2 weeks. We do all of the interviews, and then we push it into editing. And again, that's where the storytelling comes. It's not like YouTube editing or, TikTok editing, or like, it is hard cuts, and it is meant to feel as if someone recorded it themselves, but the story is pulled out in a way where they look their best and sound their best. And obviously for Rebecca or our clients, it's really hitting the points that we want them to hit.
Right. What would you say are like one of your top 1 or 2 questions that really elicit the best responses from people? Like, do you have some like golden nugget questions? You're
So
like,
I'm going to give away my very, very, very best question is the one that I ask at the end.
get your notebooks.
Well, and that is, what did I forget to ask you? I haven't worked. So at that time I hadn't worked with Rebecca. So let's say I'll say, I haven't worked with Rebecca. You have inside knowledge that I don't have. What did I forget to ask you? And I will tell you, by the way, there's magic in the pause. Everybody pauses and says, oh my God, that's such a good question. Because they're going to think about it. And I joke around. Some people are like, I think you nailed everything. And I'm like, because I did such a good job. But like, and then I let them off, right? Like, but so I would say 95% of the time people think, and they're like, you know what? I really wanted to mention this, because they were thinking about being interviewed and they did think about it ahead of time. And they thought, right. And some people even have notes or whatever, even though we say like, you don't need notes, you don't need anything. And then the other question I like to ask is, gosh, I don't think I've ever revealed this one on, is where would you be without? So whether it's Rebecca's coaching, or, I mean, we did for a pretty big medical weight loss company because that is going to be very different for everybody, but it's also kind of an emotional one.
Yeah.
Like, where would you be without it? And my favorite answer, which we get a lot of, is like, people will say, and they'll look off and they'll be like, oh my God, I don't even want to think about where I'd be without. And that's the perfect bite, right? And then they keep going, right? They're like, I don't even want to think about where I'd be in my business without Rebecca. And then but then they'll give a little more context. And again, like, that is like, I'm very good at scripting videos. I couldn't script that from someone. They would never be able to say it in a way that like feels really good to them, right? They could try and they'd be like, oh, I don't know where I'd be without Rebecca's coaching, which is what you get back.
No matter what, it'll sound like teleprompter reading, right? Hello,
Correct.
my name is so-and-so, and I'm waiting for the teleprompter to go up. I'm happy to be here. You're right. And those, because, and I think that's what, sort of looping back to your conversation about trust.
Yeah.
Being able to get those truly unscripted, like, there is no way that you could have preempted this or coached them on the answers. Again, make people feel like, all right, this is authentic. And in this world of AI, authenticity is under attack and we question everything. And so being able to have a medium like this that clearly cannot be AI'd, right? So as valuable and powerful, I use AI every day, right? For small little various different things. It's a fantastic tool. And yet can definitely work against us. So, and again, for those of you in entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, relationship businesses, or anywhere where you're trying to grow your influence, and influence is getting people
recruiting videos.
Recruiting, because and we'll talk about that in terms of different uses for this modality, right? So I use it as testimonial videos to get coaching clients. And also I used it, for those of you who know what I do one-on-one coaching, and then I also do masterminds. And then coming soon, I've got a new thing that I'll be doing as well. But the point is, like, no one joins any of my programs until they've watched some of these first. Initially, it was watching my videos, but now we have an extra layer of like, well, okay, don't just take my word for it, take somebody else's. And I think that's really powerful. How would you define the emotion that you're trying to get from people on these calls? Because again, your magic sauce is in the interview questions. I can ask those questions that you said, where would you be without da. And then I'd be like, great, fantastic, right? So I find as the owner, my skill set is not in, I can get a list of questions. Anyone listening to this right now or watching this right now can take down your questions.
Yes.
we can try to emulate it. What exactly, if you could describe it for us, because again, and getting an Emmy nomination doesn't happen because you suck, right? So
I don't suck.
I don't suck. I don't suck. So there's something, there's some magic in there. How would you define
There's so the magic there, it's a twofold. One is the comfort. People feel comfortable with me. I build a very comfortable space for them where they cannot get it wrong. So that's the thing is like, and here's when you're interviewing them, it's a totally different vibe because they feel like they have to perform.
Oh yeah.
They don't know me. Right. I'm making them feel so comfortable, like they can't get it wrong. There's a whole spiel. Like I do it at the beginning. I send them a video. So when we talk about like onboarding, I use a video of myself before they meet me. They get reminders. They get here's what looks great on camera. Here's what to expect when you show up the first couple minutes. We're going to, do a little set design for you, make sure your lighting and sound are great. Right. Like, so there's this level of comfort by the time they show up. And that is something I feel like is different. And again, with the apps or anything like that is I used a video app because I was in another group and they were like, oh, just go and use it. And I was a video person. I was like, yeah, I'll try it, whatever, I'll go. I was so frustrated because even though the person in charge of the mastermind had videoed her okay, now tell me this, I would do my answer and I'm very comfortable on video now. I was like, oh my God, no, that sucked. And then do it over and then do it over. And then by the time I finally got to the end of her 3 questions, I was exhausted. I was pissed off. I wasn't happy with what the product was going to be. And I even reached out and I was like, please don't use that. And then I told them it was a horrible, horrible video experience.
Oh, wow.
I was in another place where I think there were 1,000 attendees. So it was a live event. And same thing, they used, I can't remember which one they used, but they used one of those automated video. 11 people out of 1,000 did it, submitted it. I had back-end information. They never used any of the 11. Why? They're unusable. You have someone show up on their phone or something, they're going to be like this, they're hemming and hawing, right? Because the whole part of that is we'll take the editing out of it. You can't take the editing out of it. You want someone to be comfortable. You want somebody again, I want people to really think about this as a high-end marketing and sales tool, right? The production value doesn't have to be high end. We don't need 3 cameras and angles because that takes away from the story.
Right. We did it on Zoom, right? When you did
we did on Zoom, and now we're using another app that I partner with someone where now we can actually record them high def, which is really nice, right? But it's as easy to log onto as Zoom. That's what I had been looking for a long time is I need the users to be able to log in and it's very familiar. Right. And so this one's really close to Zoom and I like it because, and then my editors are like, thank you, because, we have a little more flexibility with the footage and, as long as their camera is good. So I think, again, the comfort. And then the other part of it is, it doesn't feel like I'm asking them questions or I'm actively listening to them and asking a question based on the answer. So again, that's just very different than an interview.
So it's more like you're trying to get them to tell their story and you're just asking questions of interest as opposed to having a scripted level of what do you say is your blah, blah, blah.
No.
So you you have your base level. Okay, this is information I need to extract from these people. And then you make it into a conversation. So they, like you said, you don't feel like they'd be interviewed. So that's where the comfort level comes. And like you said, the preamble, all those touches ahead of time would be doing that.
Yeah. And I get a lot of questions because sometimes people are like, oh, I know Mary's going to go on and on and on and on. Right. Well, Mary can go on and on and on and on. And I will allow Mary to go on and on and on. And then I will stop and be like, you mentioned this one thing and I'd love just a little bite. Could you just talk about that one thing in less than a minute? You'd be amazed how people are like, yeah, sure. No problem. Right. Yeah. That's not a hard thing for them. They, first of all, I acknowledge them that is great. I was listening. I love this part. Because we just need little bites, do you mind? Right. And they're like, great, no problem. Thanks for directing me. And that's again, after the interviews, comments I get are oh my gosh, that was fun. Before Zoom started, now Zoom does I'm recording, which I kind of hated for interviews because a lot of times I would just start recording and start and pin, and most of them would be like, wait, we started, and then they giggle a little bit, but that's how it feels. And one woman said the best thing, which was, I felt like I was shooting the shit on a couch with you. I
Mhm.
didn't feel like you were I actually felt like we were in person just shooting the shit.
Right.
Um, so
Right.
that's different. I think it's just comfort, the
Yeah.
comfort of
And
the video.
and you're absolutely right, because if someone's comfortable, then the barriers go down.
Everything
So
goes
let's
down.
go to the third part. And again, folks, if you have questions, please put your questions in the Q&A box and I will absolutely get to them, because this is one of the most pivotally important things that I have done for my business,
Yeah.
is to capture other people's emotions about my business. Like, again, the written word is fine, but capturing that emotion and that story is really, really powerful. So think of some of your
Yeah.
questions of how you want to use this for your business, and we'll go forward, because what I'm interested with it right now, Tracy, is once we have it. So you saw
Yes.
my, my what did you call it, of love? The library.
Library of love.
Yep.
Yes. And that is one of the
So
ways, right? Like, so again, as our process has evolved, we realize like, okay, some of the folks we that hire us, they have like full marketing teams of many people who like, we deliver the assets, like they know exactly what they're going to do with it. And then I also work with a lot of entrepreneurs. And the question is always like, okay, I have all these things. Now what do I
now
do
what?
with all of them? Right. Right. And it's such a fair question. And so part of the process is, once we deliver the first clip, I actually do a strategy, marketing and sales strategy call with the clients. So like,
Mhm.
so instead of doing it at the very end when they have this bulk, it's like after we deliver the first one, it's like, okay, let's get these out there. And so the first is, pretty obvious. It's social media, right?
But
These are
how? Like, in what way? Because
so,
social
right.
media,
I'm
there's
so glad you
content and
asked.
reels and
Right.
stories and ads.
Right. So Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, I mean, it's social media because the algorithms favor video. So
Mhm.
all of them, all across the board. So what you do is, part of what you get with the testimagicals is you also get a transcript from each video, like each interview. So you have their actual words. So you may have a clip of them, but you see everything they said about you, which is marketing gold, right? So we always encourage people, go in there, see what else Stephen said. What is it about his story you want to share? That's what you would be posting on social media, the Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, like different stories, right? And then tell them to watch the video, or, like, tell Stephen's story. Like, I
So,
started working
so
with
the
Stephen.
example would be like just to go back. I'm going to just share my screen
Yeah,
again. Back I go to Testamagical land. Right. So here's Ashley and Bobby.
yeah,
So, so Ashley, and and that's what I did. I listened to
yeah,
it because
right,
I'm just like that. So she had her best year at 17 million. After a full year of coaching, she
yeah,
went to
that,
33 and she stayed there. Find out what it takes to get there. Right. Bobby's story is a little bit different. So it's like,
right.
if it's a sales based story, there you go.
And then
You
tell them
want
to
to talk about.
watch it.
Right,
Right. Like, so again, you'd have that, and then you'd say, listen to Ashley talk about this herself, or just something to let
right.
them know, like, you're going to get, it couldn't, like, we love to do like, meet Ashley. She came to me and she started like this, see where she is now, right? There's beauty in brevity. We
Mhm.
just want to encourage them to watch the video.
Right.
And so when I say social media, I mean, one of the ways too is like, these do so well as ads, as Google ads, as LinkedIn ads, as Facebook and IG ads. And the reason is they're video, right? And so even if people just watch a portion of it,
Mhm.
you can use it as a video view ad. And that's just a strategy where you're collecting people in the background who watch a certain amount of it. Well, people are more likely to watch another human talking about somebody's business than if Rebecca were to try and do a video view ad about her own coaching.
Right. And a really great strategy could be, because video views ads are fairly cheap, in terms of
Very
like
cheap.
you're paid
Yeah,
per.
yeah,
So you run a super cheap ad with, it could be a carousel of these, or it could be a
yes,
series of ads with all the individuals. And then what you can do is a retargeted ad based on people who have
that's it.
watched, 10, 15, however, whatever percentage you want. And there's where you do your lead capture, right? Where you
Right.
can send them to a website, or you can do the lead generation ads. So you can capture truly interested audiences and either
Yeah.
have like the next offer, right? Because again, it could be a download, it could be a book a call, whatever your offering is. And so
Whatever it is.
we're talking about that.
And then they're warm. They're no
Exactly.
longer a
Longer
cold
cold.
audience. So the video views are great. And the way we have a lot of our clients are using these are because you get a library of them, right? They'll test them against each other.
Mhm.
who are they clicking on? And then you put the money towards that one, right? Like, so if you have 5, and my favorite story about this is there was a woman named Grandma Diane. I interviewed her. I don't think she had ever used technology ever. It was such a difficult interview, not because of her, but because like she just, she was like over here, that shit, like it was crazy. And I was so worried because I was like, the footage wasn't great as far as just, it didn't look great. Grandma Diane, what was coming out of her mouth, this was for Dr. Mary Barbera, and she does autism, specializes in early intervention. So when grandparents just find out that there's been a diagnosis, she has this membership. And Grandma Diane gets on, and the question was, where would you be without it? She starts to well up, and she's like, I don't know. I don't think that he would even have a 2-year-old level. Like, and I even tear up thinking about like interview, right? Like it was that emotional, right? I have the chilly bumples when I think about that. And Mary and I always laugh because I was almost terrified to deliver the clip to her because I really just thought the quality was that bad. And she got back to me 2 weeks later, and she's like, I just want you to know for your own like heart that Grandma Diane has exponentially, that's the one that people are watching. That is the one that wins. That's the one. So now, like that was 3 years ago, she now only runs Grandma Diane. Right? Like she knows against the other ones, that's the one that people are watching. And so to bring a new audience in. And so again, to be able to run ads, to use these over and over and over again. And that's why we say like 10xing it, being able to amplify that voice and your business and all of that in just video testimonials is amazing. And then the next place is like, we talk about obvious, like sales pages and websites. And there's a couple different reasons there is hang time and conversions. So again, the algorithms, the SEO, all of the rankings, all of that, it favors video. So for all of those people who are just really tired of hearing a video, I am so sorry, but it's not going away. So like, stop putting all of your efforts into all of those other things. I had a real estate person once say I was doing a training, and he's like, you could get a Testamagical for like half the price of putting your freaking face on a bench that no one sees, right? Like, and I just thought that was such a funny, like, right? Like, no one cares about your face on a bench. And yeah, because again, but on sales pages and websites, hang time, meaning folks will hang out on your website 88% longer with a video.
I'm sorry, how much longer? 88?
88. And I'm not like let's throw stats at people. But like, I was like, well, that's astounding, right? Like you should have you should have video on your website, right? The other thing is, for those of you, if you have a franchise business or something like that, a lot of times the franchise will give you like a slick, cool video to show about not nearly as effective as actual people who work there, actual people who have worked with you.
And you've experienced that where there was like a company that gave you, here's like this slick, it was like something for recruiting or whatever. And there wasn't like, it had like no people in it.
So the only people in there was stock footage. It was very obviously like the diverse 3 people standing by a water cooler. And I'm like, I said to the guy, do you even have a water cooler? And he's like, no. And the other thing, it was like slick footage of, it was like showing this building and inside, and it was just a bunch of empty chairs. And I was like, to me, that means no one wants to work there. And this is your recruiting video. And he goes, I never thought about that before, but it came from corporate, right? Like it wasn't his video. He laid everything out the way it was supposed to be. And interestingly, I worked, with another real estate, and I asked the woman in charge of sales, I was like, are they allowed to put their own videos? She's like, yes, we want them to.
Right. But people just
like
don't.
They give it to because so that they have an asset, but they would love for people to, make it unique to their business. And so again, hang time, but then also conversions, just people are far more likely to watch and click and take action because now they trust.
Right. Which is where you get your ROI. You don't get an ROI with views, right?
No.
You get your ROI by people saying, I need to do something about this. And so again, when it comes down to influence, that's getting people to yes. If this is part of what warms people up and gets them really excited because they can really connect with one of these stories, then it makes them much more likely to be able to basically, you walk in the door, you turn on, and I've actually done that before where I've turned on, the Zoom for a strategy call and they're like, I'm in, let's go. And I'm
right.
It does like a world record.
So when that's onboarding, right? Like having it on your website kind of goes like hand in hand with the onboarding. And I love that you told the story of like, they book a call with you. It's this great stopgap of getting to know you without you being like, I'm amazing. And in order to work with me, right? Like, which is can be effective, at least you're using video, but not nearly as effective of like, here is a page, a library of love, like just showing people or picking one specific. Maybe you know this person is struggling with something and you have a video that matches that. Right. So
Yep.
we'll send that out.
Yeah.
So for me, I have testimonials like sometimes we'll work with in the medical world and people say, oh, I can't, I'm in the medical world. I'm like, well, here are my medical clients and we're HIPAA compliant. And we're like, so we're able to say like, I understand that that's your objection, but it's not like, we'll just do it a different way. But I'm able to send that video in between the calls. So they say, oh, well, I know that company. And if they're doing video testimonials, I can do video testimonials, emails. So you can't embed video into email yet. However, you can take a little screen grab, right? Like think about the Ashley one and the little with the little arrow on it. You could put that and make it clickable. Then it goes to the Library of Love where they can right. Like so, you can use it. You can use these. These are really great as recruiting videos. So you know, video testimonials are great, but if you're in a place where you're really trying to recruit top talent, you know, where I want to work is where the people are telling me that it's a great place to work, the actual people, not like the diverse group of people, right? Like the
with a
right?
weird voiceover.
Yeah,
Like,
recruiting. And then my favorite, the last way, which has been really fun to work with our clients on is I call them brand ambassadors because every single time I do an interview, the person will ask, will I get to see this video? And I'll say, I'll make sure that you see your video because we don't want them to just see their video. We want them to share the video and they are happy to do it because now all of a sudden they have this edited piece of content where they sound and they look amazing and they know they do. And they're like, I love them. I love Rebecca. And now you can see what I said about her in a way that like it reflects how they actually feel about her. And so I call them brand ambassadors. And it really is that like undiscovered, even with my bigger marketing team type clients where they're like, oh, we never thought to actually show the videos to the people who participated.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the things that works really well is that brand ambassadorship is not just something that can be used through email, but you tag them on social, right?
Correct.
And you've got all these different these things.
Right.
We've got a couple of questions. So from Arlene, we've got, I'm a realtor. I have a header videos of properties on my website that play in a loop without clicking on the videos. Is this possible without clicking on an arrow with your videos?
I'm not, I mean, like that's all done. That would be totally done with your, whoever builds your site. That's not how we deliver the videos because we're delivering a video file. It's a loop video is different though than because these would have words and you wouldn't want them just auto playing all of a sudden have them all auto playing. It's unkind to your audience, by the way, to have autoplay videos. So don't do that. Now having a loop of properties or something is different because there's no audio. If there's audio,
it's very visual. Yeah.
Music, right. It's meant as like a header. These are not meant for that. You want people clicking and watching. So Arlene, although I don't think you would actually want that on your things. I'm sure it's possible, but I don't think that's kind to whoever comes to your site to have all of a sudden have like videos start playing out of their control.
Yeah. But I mean, where that would be really great is if there was like a page of people that had sold, bought a sold with you, Arlene, and then have them thrown there. Again, I think the challenge is with the property is all beautiful, you know, imagery and all that kind of a thing. But with these, it's actually the spoken word that makes the most sense. And Arlene totally gets that.
And we have like, again, we've worked with realtors before, like, right, like, and we interview their happy clients, buyers, sellers, whoever it is. And it works really well, especially as a library of love page, right? Because again, the differentiator is people actually talking about it on the website. That's what's going to stand out. If someone's looking for a realtor and suddenly you have, so part of the package too is like, it's a compilation reel, right? So we take all the people, take some of the people in the best ofs and create a short, like test, like little reel, and that can go on your homepage. And then underneath you can say, want to see more, right? And then that can go to your library of love where it's the individual ones.
The Testimonial reels, I find are probably the most effective. Like individually they're great, but when you see like everybody, you know, like Tracy, how you said, like, you know, everyone had like that beautiful sound bite, and when they're put all together into a 3-minute reel, and you can send that out to people. That's extremely, extremely powerful,
Well,
and a wonderful thing to put on a homepage somewhere on your website.
Homepage, website, they don't do as well as video view ads. The individual clips do better as video view ads.
Oh, isn't that interesting? I would have thought it would be the opposite.
I know.
It's interesting. I wonder if it's the
Now
length.
you know.
And now there you go, ladies and gentlemen. We have another little golden nugget for you. Okay, you has a question. I'm the founder of a nonprofit. Would I personally be a good testimonial for the charity, or rather use donors and people that volunteer for us?
So it's interesting. So right now I'm working on a nonprofit video where we're telling it's for a disaster relief foundation, and we're interviewing the people who received the funds, right? So they're telling their stories about how the funds, changed their experience. So it's interesting. And Ute, I don't know. I want to make sure I'm a name person. I want to make sure I'm pronouncing your name. So even if you ask another question, just like phonetically, let me know how to say your name. But the best charity, I come from 20 years and I started in documentaries. I have done tons of nonprofit organization videos. In San Diego, we did probably 2 a year for different organizations. People don't necessarily want to hear from the founders. They want to know where their money is going. They want to know how their money is being used. And so, although volunteers and founders are nice, and maybe you can have them it can be interspersed, they want to hear from the people who have been affected by whatever it is you're raising money for.
And they're really powerful. And like you said about Diane, and getting people's thoughts there. That's phenomenal. Okay, so hopefully that answered all of the questions. So just to do a quick recap now of what we have talked about, we've got the power of trust that cannot be replicated. It can't be AI'd, and it can't be replicated through the written word, and that emotional conveyance that we have through our gestures, through our facial expressions, that really grip people and hit our brains in that very powerful way, allowing us to say, hey, you know what, maybe I should do something about it, because decisions are initially made on emotion, followed a long way after by actual thought processes. You share with us some of your absolute golden nugget questions. I thank you so much for those. Those are really powerful. And now I'm going to be listening for those whenever I do my additional, testimagicals with you. They'll be like, oh, there she has that question.
There she is.
I'll pick it out.
Yeah.
And of course, the last one is about for advertising, because all of these assets are great, but if we don't operationalize them and actually use them for the tool that they are, they really don't go anywhere. And that is sort of the formula, again, to bring it back full circle to the whole reason we're here. 10xing your referrals is something that you can absolutely do. You just need to use it properly. So just doing it is not enough. Using it is really where the magic happens.
Yeah.
Wasn't that amazing? I am so happy that you were able to listen to that whole thing from Tracy. She has transformed the businesses of so many people through video testimonials, which of course she calls the Testimagical. I know what you're thinking, and you're right. It's awesome, and it's going to stick in your head. If you want to learn more about what Tracy has to offer, go down into the description below, check the links. Testimagical.com is where you can reach her and see if there's a way that Testimagicals can be used in your business to absolutely add rocket fuel to your referrals. Every business grows the best and the strongest and the fastest at the highest conversion rates with the lowest amount of effort with referrals. So anything you can do to focus your business on getting more referrals is a good strategy. So get to work.